and welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with Daniel.
And Daniel.
Daniel, today, this is our first top 8 debate that we've done in a very long time.
Oh yeah, it got to the point where actually I wasn't ready. I couldn't find my sticky notes.
Right? I've been debating in my sleep. I've been preparing for this day. That's totally a lie. I've been enjoying the time off more than anything.
I'm looking forward to arguing with you again
Yeah.
because that always entertains me because again,
Yeah.
as I mentioned in our previous podcast, you're always wrong.
Well, also, as we mentioned in our previous podcast, it was way more civil. We were like, yeah, that's a really good idea. Pat on the back. Go you. And now it's like, you're going to die in a fire. Let me tell you why. No, we've had fun. Today's episode is going to be another one of our top 8 debates, which is what we are known for at Everyday Board Games. And we picked a publisher that we feel always comes out with really high quality, really good games, but they're not very common, unfortunately, which means we got our 8, and we're going to talk about a couple games as honorable mentions, but we'll talk about those when we get to them.
One from me. One.
Yeah, I technically only have one now, but we'll talk about 2 other games together and why we don't consider them to be on the list.
Yeah, that's fine. Also want to make mention, if you did listen to our last podcast, not the one we just recorded before this, but the last top 8 debate, we mentioned a topic that we were going to do. I don't know if we mentioned it in the podcast, but at least on the stream, that we were going to do food-themed games for the podcast. That was also before Thanksgiving, so we're going to possibly push that back till next Thanksgiving. Hopefully we'll have more games to actually add to the list if we like it. So just to let everybody know, that's on the back burner right now. We're going with Repos.
Yeah. So Repos, I mean, they're owned by Asmodee. I think they're one of the first that were bought by Asmodee, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was a while ago. They're one of the first ones to be picked up on the, what would you call it?
The reckoning that everybody says, apparently. It's like, no, they're ruining board games.
Simulation of board games.
Right? No, I mean, honestly, I think it was a really good deal. And Repos honestly makes really high quality stuff.
Yeah, they do.
They're up there. One of the games that I can't wait to debate about, you would never want to bring on an airplane. You know, another game you would probably bring to every party. You know, like you'll see what we talk about when we're debating it. But in case you're new to our episode or our show, let's tell them what a top 8 debate is.
Sounds good to me. So first thing first, our top 8 debate is we choose a topic, this one being Repos games, and 2, we pick the first 8 games that we both have played, and this is a big important thing, because we need to be able to equally argue the games, whether we get for or against, that sort of thing.
Yes.
So if we get a game that neither one of us have played,
we can't have it. Yeah, we can't have an unbiased opinion for it.
Yeah.
We could very well have biased opinions for it, but we can't not have an unbiased. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you want to tell them the criteria breakdown?
Absolutely. So we break it into 5 different categories and how we judge it based on that. Basically, it's a best of 5. If one of them wins 3 of the 5 categories, they move on to the next round. And each of those have sub-criteria that we'll talk about later on. The first one is ease of play, which basically sums up to how simple is it to learn, how easy is it to get to the table, and how much confusion and analysis paralysis is it going to cause as you're playing.
The next one on our list here is replay value, and that's basically about the length of time the game can take. Is it going to be really long? Does it scale very well? Is a 2-player game going to be the same as a 5-player game? Also, the minimum number of plays. If you just play it once, you basically know how to play it, and so you're not going to lend itself to replayability. But if it's something like a campaign game where it's going to make you play more, it's going to lead to more possibilities of replay value. And the big caveat on this one is expandability.
Yeah.
And the way we break down the expandability is if it already has an existing expansion, up to one possible future expansion that we believe is going to come, or if expansions have been confirmed by the designer or the publisher.
Yeah. Yep. And then the next category we have is art and production. Now that simply breaks down exactly as you think it is. We rank it on the art, the production quality, and the general graphic design. And that also matters for the function of it. Not the design of the game itself, but how well does the art bring out that experience. For example, if you play a game where it's really graphically intense and cluttered, that's going to be a knockdown versus one that has very simple icons and easy to follow iconography and or just text.
No, and the next one we have is meaningful choice. This is the impact on other player strategies as well as your own long-term strategy, and if it lends itself to arbitrary choices, does it impact gameplay? So basically, if you're making good choices, or are you just like, oh, I flipped that card, okay, I'll just play this card I got.
Yeah. And the final category that we have is game immersion. And this is more of like how in tune do you feel when you're playing with the game? How likely are you going to tell people about the game you played itself? Like how immersive, how much do you feel the theme is brought out because of the game itself?
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, those are our 5 categories that we rank them on. The first round that we do, we start with 8, we go down to 4. 1-by-1 battles will rank our highest ranked seed from Board Game Geek versus our lowest ranked seed. After the first round, we will reseed them, and then again, highest to lowest, battling them out until we have one final on top. You'll notice that we will each be picking a side for each one of these arguments, and we'll have to kind of talk about the pros and cons for our side.
Mm-hmm. One other caveat that we need to talk about is when we get to the finals, when it's the last 2 games standing, we don't choose a side when it comes down to that. Mm-hmm. We just go straight into the criteria. Who wins this? Who wins that? And when it comes down to it, if there is a tie, sometimes we'll just call it a wash in a certain category. We go to our fan vote. If you want to take part in the fan vote, whoever, it's our tiebreaker. Whichever one has the highest number of votes wins overall. And if you want to be a part of that, you can find always our polls on Board Game Revolution on Facebook.
That's right. So, if you want to join in on the conversation, if you're watching us live, if you're one of the lucky ones, by all means, voice us your opinion. Until we're waiting for our first debate, let's talk about honorable mentions. Daniel,
sounds good to me.
there was a couple oddities in our list that we discussed.
Well, the big thing about Repos, before we get into it, is they're not mainly just a North America publisher. Most of their stuff is Europe based, and then they used to get other publishers to produce out here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we have this caveat.
Yeah, and sometimes they've published games outside of America that might have normally been here, or vice versa.
By a different company, yeah.
So the first game we want to bring up is a game called Pit. It was made over 115 years ago. I think it was like 1903 was when it was created. It's a game about buying and selling, stock market, and you're trading, but it's all at once. Everybody's going wild. You're saying, oh, two, I'll trade two, and they have to be 2 of the same thing. I might trade Daniel wheat, and he gives me corn. Trying to make all your hand the same card first to do it wins the round. That's it.
And you play a certain number of rounds.
Well,
when you do read it, you smack a bell. It's really loud, a lot of screaming, yelling.
Yeah. I like the game. I really do.
I enjoy it. It's one of the few, I guess you could say, economic games in a sense. It's a party economic game if you think about it.
Yeah. It's a simultaneous play game, which isn't that common, and so you got to give it that. And it's pretty thematic. I mean, you feel like you're actively trading and shouting at each other in a stock market. That's the point, But
no, I don't disagree.
But we know it wasn't their original publisher because obviously Repos hasn't been around since 1903, and it's definitely not even one of the ones that they're most known for. So we couldn't, in good faith, put it in our list.
Yeah, exactly. We know it for other reasons.
Right.
For that matter. And the next one that we're going to talk about is Time's Up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know Time's Up for Repos. I know it from R&R Games. The copy I have is from R&R. So we talked about it. It was like, they did publish it. We have allowed games that used to be published by another company or that are either currently published or formerly published by that publisher.
Mm-hmm.
But this one is just here where we live in the United States. It's never been a Repos game for us.
No. No, it never has, and you just don't consider it that way. And honestly, I don't feel it does a good job of representing the good quality games that they have. I mean, Time's
Yeah,
Up is a brilliant, amazing game. That's not to
yeah,
dock Time's Up at all.
yeah,
I'm just saying
exactly.
that I don't think it's indicative of what the other games that we're going to be debating.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
So, Daniel, since you're taking a drink of water, why don't you give us your first honorable mention, first and only honorable mention?
Yeah, I only have one honorable mention, and it's not even a game I played. Sort of.
I already know
So,
which one it is, but go on.
yeah. So the game. Well, what is it then?
Last Bastion.
Yeah, no, it is. So we're going to be talking about its predecessor later on when we get into the debate, which is Ghost Stories. I haven't played it. It looks interesting. It's a re-implementation of Ghost Stories into this. You're trying to save a last bastion from falling. It's got more of a medieval theme to it than the spooky story like Ghost Stories is. I want to see what the difference is. I want to see like is it just as hard as Ghost Stories was, or did they make it a little bit easier for people who can feel they actually
Like they
accomplish
have
something?
like they have a chance.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the only one on my honorable mention. Is just because I want to see the difference. I like Ghost Stories. I'm probably one of the few people that actually enjoy Ghost Stories. I don't play it a lot just because it's so difficult
Yeah.
and hard to get a copy nowadays.
That it is. I just realized half of the games that we're going to be arguing about today are from Antoine Bauza. So
Well,
that's how that works. And my other Repos game that I wanted to talk about real quick was called Tadam, and it's a brilliant party game where you have like these little stage-looking whiteboards, and they fold in two halves like so, and you draw half of a picture. So like I might get one that says like a steak dinner. I don't know, and I have to draw half of the picture, and then I close my half and I pass the card to the next player, and they open up the other half that isn't drawn and have to try and make a cohesive half of that picture. And so no person draws the same level as anybody else, and that's what makes this game so brilliant. Is because like you know in a lot of drawing games, one person's amazing. You're always gonna guess what they draw. One person, yeah, they're okay. You know, like you
yeah,
might guess what they draw. No, the contrast between the two is what makes it brilliant. And I have one perfect example of it. One of the cards, me and our mutual friend Jim were playing, and the one that we picked, a one-armed man. Think about drawing half of that. Just think about that for a minute. It was brilliant. It was
you watching
absolutely
The
brilliant.
Fugitive or playing a video game, a board game?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Think about how you even approach the idea of drawing half of an image of a one-armed man, because you can't communicate otherwise. It's so brilliant. And what makes it so fun is that you hold the picture in between each other, and on the count of three, you go one, two, three, ta-da! And you show them this image, and everybody. It's a time thing. It's part of the mechanism where
I don't want to play
people
it now.
try
Nope,
and
nope.
guess. Oh, it's
Not
so
gonna.
brilliant.
Nope, nope.
You got to give
You're
it.
not doing it justice.
I probably am not, but I was gonna tell one more fact about it, and that would probably put you off even more. But it is absolutely one of the funnest drawing. It's my favorite drawing game, easily. Tadam.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
So, let's talk about our top 8 rank. The remaining 8 Repos games that are in production that we could talk about. And
Well,
once
one of
again,
them isn't in production, but
that's true. These are ranked in order from Board Game Geek, the user ratings, and we have them as thus. Number 1, Seven Wonders Duel.
facing number 8, Doctor Panic.
Dr. Panic. Our number 2 seed, Seven Wonders, the base game.
Facing the number 7 seed, Terror in Meeple City, otherwise known as Rampage.
Yep. Our number 3 seed, Just One.
Going up against our number 6 seed, Concept.
And our number 4 seed, Ghost Stories.
Going up against our 5 seed, Cash and Guns. So I'm looking at this, and one of these things is not like the others.
Nope. No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. I know. In fact, honestly, this is a wide range. I mean, you have drafting, you have a
You
party
got
game,
dexterity.
you have a very difficult co-op game, you have another party game, you have another party game, then you have
You got two party
dexterity.
games going up against each other.
Yeah, but then you have two dexterity games. So, I mean, it's not totally off, but yeah, I mean, it's one of them is not like the other for sure. All right,
All
with that.
right. And before we get started, we've mentioned this before. Sometimes we will eliminate games if they're a lot like when we're talking about like the West Kingdom series versus the Raiders series.
Yeah.
They tend to be a lot alike, and so we're going to go ahead and or like Paladins or something like that. The Seven Wonders and Seven Wonders Duel, they play differently to each other that they can both be on this list.
Yeah. And if we combined them anyway, we wouldn't have enough. So we decided to separate them this time around, which is fine. It's
Which is fine.
okay.
All
All
right,
right.
you ready for the first pick?
I am ready for it. I'm noticing on my end on Twitch it's loading, but I think it's still recording, so it should be fine. But let me know.
Stuttering a little bit on my side.
Okay, I'm pretty sure
I'm good on Wi-Fi.
we should be fine. I'm pretty sure the rest of my family showed up, so let's do this snappy.
Yeah.
All right, Seven Wonders Duel versus Doctor Panic. What Daniel is doing right now, he has his little post-it notes. He's mixing them up. He's gonna see which one I am gonna argue for.
You got Seven Wonders Duel.
So Seven Wonders Duel is an absolutely brilliant two-player game, and I say it's brilliant because I am notorious for not being a big fan of Seven Wonders, the base game. Personally, I'm probably gonna be the one to get that to argue the pros for it. It's a smart game, and when he worked with, I believe, Bruno Cathala, with Antoine Bauza, I heard stories of them like having an airplane flight, like back from a convention and talking together, and discussing how they would approach a two-player only version of Seven Wonders, because the original Seven Wonders had a two-player version in it, and it was dumb. Nobody liked it. And
it was
so,
like one of the first dummy players that I've ever played, and it was literally that dummy.
yeah, it was pretty bad. So what they ended up doing was, they took Cathala's, mastery of like understanding pretty straightforward classic games, and he basically turned it into a two-player version of like Klondike Solitaire, or Pyramid Solitaire. Sorry, and so you're drafting these cards in a very meaningful way that you don't know what some of them are. You're uncovering some. You do know what some are. You can see it's so brilliant. And then there's three separate ways to win. Personally, I think as far as design goes, I understand why you don't like Dr. Panic. And I also understand why I do like Dr. Panic. I love those fast, over the top, I silly. I don't remember if I think it's Roberto Fraga who made it, and I like his designs a lot. And I love the idea of like 8 little mini games that you're playing, and it goes over so well with me and my family. And you have a minor quibble with it, which has completely shut it down for you. And I know you'll bring it up.
There's not just a minor. There's a few minor quibbles.
Well, I know your main argument for it, and but that's fine. I I understand your argument for it, and I will concede that I do think Seven Wonders Duel should go on.
Oh,
With that being said,
Joel can go on, but I got to talk about Dr. Panic here and try to fight for it.
okay,
So first off, let's go to Seven Wonders Duel. The cons that I have listed down here
okay,
is one is that it can lead to one player dominating another player if one of them is, say, like a newer player or someone who's not too familiar with the way Seven Wonders Duel itself works, because it does play slightly different than regular Seven Wonders, and it can lead to someone getting dominated, and that can be an issue, not all the time. The other one that I have is the drafting way they do it for two players, because it's mostly open information, but it can lead to luckiness where that first player has a better opportunity than the second player. Just because it depends on the flip. The one player can force another player to flip a card or force them to draw a card because, say, someone's going military heavy. Okay, I got to take this military away from them, even if it's just to sell it. This way they don't get too far in that military trap. And then what happens? A military flips up, and they don't know about it until that last car gets taken.
Right.
That's really my main issues with it. When we go into Dr. Panic here, it's a nice little, I guess you could say, dexterity party game. It leads to a lot of good, fun memories that people can have. There's some good ones from when you were showing it at the shop and stuff like that. But my issue is that it's just okay. There are some flaws with it, like they call it the CT machine an MRI machine, which is just no.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was lost in translation. I found something odd about playing it last time is that the app is the menus in the app. I can't figure out how to put it in English.
Oh, okay.
So
it's interesting. So
yeah,
it might be a lost in translation kind of thing. I get why they're doing it, but I'm coming from a medical background. My wife works in a medical background, and it's the same reason I have with Smirk and Dacker's Paramedic Now or whatever it's called.
Paramedic's Clear.
Yeah. It's just not how this works. I understand it's a game, but especially now, right now.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we show the actual lifestyle that this is?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna go for as realistic to a hospital no, I'm just kidding. But Healthy Heart Hospital is probably the one I would say.
Yeah, and I've heard Dice Hospital is actually pretty good about that too, where it's a fun game, but I mean, you just look at anything the Academy games are, where they're being very respectful to what they're talking about. That's just my quibble. That's just me. That's because that's my background, my family's background.
Cool.
But and it's also not that entertaining to me either.
Yeah. I get that. Like, let's talk about, if we were to break this down, I mean, I do think Immersion would go to Dr. Panic, personally. Yeah, I mean, it's just because when everybody has to stop because they flatline and everybody, like, one person is pushing the whoopee cushion, and the other person's, like, trying to zap them. It's really intense, and it's silly, but that's the point. But
yeah, but it's also another one that forced people to go into a bathroom.
Yeah, that happened to us during our game. It was so fun. But like art and production, the production quality on Dr. Panic is phenomenal.
It is. I actually really like the stuff more on Seven Wonders Duel.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like, but the fact that they included hairnets in it, like for all the players, there's tweezers, like.
So here's the thing about that. When you think about it, and especially in today's day and age, I don't know if I want to be wearing a hairnet.
No. I know. The first time I ever taught my son how to play Dr. Panic was during the quarantine, and we broke it open. I was like, and we're not going to wear these. Because we're just going to keep it not touched. How about that? It was like, we'll wear our face masks for thematic value. But as far as replay value, I mean, so there is a lot of replay value as far as, which cards you get in Dr. Panic, but really, the way everything lays out in Seven Wonders Duel, I think that's more replay
just
value.
Even the base game, except everything lays out. Yeah. Certain cards are not used. Certain cards go in. They're laid out differently. Another big one for me is there's 2 expansions to Seven Wonders Duel, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think so.
No, one for sure. I think there is a second one.
Sure.
Pantheon and something else.
Yeah, and so ease of play. As much as I want to say Dr. Panic is easy, and it is, because you have to learn technically 8 little mini games, that is easier than a medium weight 2-player game.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, for me personally, I just think Seven Wonder Duels is the better game. Like I said, Dr. Panic is a nice little party dexterity game that people have fun with. But if we're just talking like what is the better, meatier game, I'm going to pick Seven Wonders Duel every day of the week.
Sure. Cool. All right. So that means Seven Wonders Duel moves on to the next round. Why don't you tell us how many people voted for Dr. Panic? Or we'll wait for the end of the round.
We do that at the end, yeah.
That's right. Our next debate will be Seven Wonders, the base game, versus Terror and Meeple City, Battle of the Antoine Bauza games.
Really completely different styles.
Very different Bauza games.
Alright, so this one is going to be mine.
One's a city building game, one's a city destroying game. Wait, what? I'll ask you later, but I want to know your general. I think I remember your general thoughts on Seven Wonders, but I don't think we've ever argued Terra and Meeple City before, have we?
I think we have, but I think it was under Rampage at the time.
But I
So I
mean,
think it was
in our
under.
debate, though.
Yeah, we have. It was under, I think, the Dexterity games.
Oh, dexterity games. Okay, that's right.
Alright, so this one's gone. This one's
Okay.
in. Alrighty, so Seven Wonders here. I have. Let me get this on the right screen. Uh, it's well beloved for a reason. A lot of people really do dig this game, and a lot of people do enjoy this game. So I can't hate on it too much. It's quick to play. I remember we played a 3-player game of it. We got it done in about 30 minutes. And so it can hold, and a big pro for it, it can hold, what, 7 people? So if you need to bust out that one game that can hold a lot of people, Seven Wonders could be one of those games for you. There's a lot of expansions for it. I think Babel is the highly rated one out of it. So I'm trying to be as unbiased about it as I can with this one. Seven Wonders is an okay game, but it's not a great game. And one of my big cons on it is because they had to make a whole separate game for 2 players because of how bad the 2-player version of it was.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's a quick game if everybody knows how to play.
Yeah.
And most of the times, if you're going to bust it out, you're going to be like, "Do you guys know how to play Seven Wonders?" Because I'm not playing with anybody new with this game. I'll play it if someone wants to play it, but I'm not playing with someone else who else is on it.
Yeah. So my cons for Seven Wonders. Fox Hugh. Uh, he he said Duel is awesome though. We don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for joining in on the conversation. By all means, keep up. We'll definitely talk with you. My argument with Seven Wonders, the base game, is that it's almost too simple for being as complicated as it is, or it's almost too complicated for how simple it should be. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not a difficult game in any way. You just take a card, pass the rest. That's the game, right? But you have
The biggest thing about that, though, is like when you're trying to pay for the card. Oh, I don't have this, but I'll pay you for your wood, and so you're working with your neighbors and stuff like that. That can be very tricky for people.
It can, yeah. For some reason, it's really difficult. I mean, in all honesty, it's just boring. It's just, if I want to play drafting, I just played It's a Wonderful World, and that's a phenomenal drafting game. That's fantastic because you have engine building on top of it.
I really want to try that one.
Yeah, and then I've also played Sushi Go, which if you want to play a simple drafting game, there you go. That replaces it hands down. So.
Oh, yeah.
This game has been surpassed so many times for me that it's hard to debate about. Duel did something so interesting with applying it to a 2-player method. I just don't think Seven Wonders is worth playing anymore.
Yeah, and
Now,
so I'm just going to let you know, because I think we're both going to agree on something here.
mm-hmm.
When I talked about us playing a 3-player game in 30 minutes, my one big con for this game, it's multiplayer solitaire. We played that 3-player game in 30 minutes. I don't think we really talked at all during that entire game.
No, probably not. Probably not at all. And Fox Hugh, he said, have not played the original though. It's okay. If you play Duel, you got the right choice for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, with us.
But as far as Terra and Meeple City, let's talk about that. It was originally known as Rampage. It is one of the best produced dexterity games. The idea of Rampage the video game, I feel like it needs to be said, is that you are these giant kaiju monsters running around destroying things. That needed to be dexterity. There is no better thing than dropping a big old chunky wood bit onto a stack of meeples and tiles as they launch everywhere, and you're eating the meeples that fall in your sector. There is something so incredibly enjoyable about it. The production quality that they have on it is brilliant. The graphic design is fun. There's all sorts of little Easter eggs all over the board. Everything's built to high quality.
Rampage, not in Terra Maple City Blueprints. In the original Rampage has all the Easter eggs.
Right.
The reason why it actually had to change its name because of lawsuits.
Right. I think it has a lot of the same reprints on the board, although I can't confirm that. Or a lot of the
I'm
Easter
not
eggs.
sure. I haven't seen the Terra Maple City.
Right.
I've only seen the Rampage. I just heard that there was an issue with the name, and then there was also an issue with some of the copyright stuff on it. Like you can find Captain America's shield on it. The Ninja Turtles are peeking out of a sewer, so
Yeah, yeah, little minor things, but I personally I think it's one of my favorite dexterity games because
it's up there.
it
I do
it
have one issue with it though.
well before you get to the issue, the reason why I think it's so good is because it 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 makes a Euro game out of dexterity because you're doing set collection. Yes, you're doing dexterity by jumping around and dropping pieces. Yeah, that's the point. But you're scoring points, and there's a lot of ways to do it, and getting different kinds of meeples, different characters, where you're gonna go for. It makes it an actual game, not just
Well,
like I'm breaking or I'm like throwing things and like it's not air hockey anymore. It's up there with like it's more complicated than Monopoly, you know.
yeah. So one of my major cons though with it is going back to what you're saying. It does have Euro mechanisms to it,
Yeah,
but it's also dexterity. There's something
sure.
in there that forces you to blow on the pieces in the game. And then, again, going back to what we were talking about with Dr. Panic, in
Yeah.
this time frame, that's a no bueno.
Yeah. Nowadays that's really uncomfortable. I get you. I agree. I mean, but yeah, I but prior to this time last year, it's fine.
Oh, yeah,
It's
it's
all
fine.
right. Yeah.
I do enjoy it. I think there are better dexterity games
Yeah.
for what it is. I'd rather play Rhino Hero over this just
Sure.
because I like Rhino Hero a lot more.
Yeah.
Again,
Pitch car. Sure. You'd probably
Pitch
play
Car,
that
yeah,
too.
no,
Yeah.
stuff like that for the flicking, and it's a good game. I enjoy it. I think I would push this through rather than Seven Wonders, but that's also my personal bias.
I would too, and I'll tell you why I would. This game, yes, you compared it to a lot of dexterity games. You're like, I like Rhino Hero, I like Pitch Car, and there's a lot of really good dexterity games.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
ranks there with them. This is still talked about.
No,
How many
I
drafting
don't disagree.
games or how many times do you go? I own 10 drafting games, and I always play Seven Wonder. No.
No, if I had a choice of a drafting game, it would depend. I have three of them in my house right now.
Yeah.
And if I had to choose out of the three, I'd probably pick Paper Tales.
Yeah.
I like that one a lot more than, say, I do like Sushigo, don't get me wrong, I do own that one. I just prefer Sushigo Party.
Yeah. And then Fox Hughes said, "Ha! I own Pitch Car Mini. Good choice, sir.
Yeah.
Well done."
I really enjoy Pitch Car.
Yeah, Pitch Car is awesome. Have you played Terra and Meeple City? Let us know. But for now, I think you and I are in agreement. We're moving it on.
So, before we move on, Fox Hughes asked Becky, define drafting games. So, drafting games are where you get a set of basically cards. You choose one or two, sometimes it just depends on the game. You choose one of those cards and you pass them on. You get a new hand of cards, you take a card that's going to go with what you want to do. That's the main mechanism of the drafting game. So, you're drafting your hand of cards. Everybody's going to get to see what everybody has, but not completely. So they're going to have some information, but not a lot of information.
Right. Another good example of drafting that doesn't necessarily matter with the passing of hands is a Zool, where everybody has access to see all of the tiles, but you're only going to take some from the lot that you're given. That's drafting.
Yeah.
So, do we agree that
Yeah, I say Terra and Maple City moves on.
Terror in Meeple
And
City? All right.
If I'm looking at this correctly, that means it's going straight up against Seven Wonders. Duel. It's got to go through another Seven Wonders because it's the lowest seed left.
Yes, that's correct. So, well, it's done good so far. I'm curious to see how it'll be in the next one, though.
Yep, and so our next one is Just One versus Concept. I actually like
Battle of the Party Games. All right. Just One versus Concept.
There's that one.
All right. So this will be my argument this time. Go ahead and
You get
pick
the
for
first
me.
one.
Off with the hat, in with the with the papers. Let's find out. Bum,
Alright,
ba,
so
rum.
you are getting Concept.
Concept. Concept is a wonderfully abstract party game. It uses the idea that it's going to be similar to Just One in this aspect, is that
It
how
really is.
yeah, the goal is how can I convey information to another player with a really heavy restriction. And the way Concept approaches it is it has a big board with a bunch of different colors, shapes, icons, uh, actions, logos, whatever, and you are putting cubes down on the board to try and get the other players to guess this general concept. So, for example, let's say I wanted Thanksgiving. That's a really difficult one. I might put a cube on the food. I might put a cube on like fireworks. If I don't remember if there is one, but something like that. Um, I might put a cube on like the orange space. And my reasoning for it would be I'm trying to give them the idea of autumn, or like that season. But then I also really need to specify the food part of it, you know. And
Yeah.
you have cubes, and you also have the concept piece, which is basically a question mark or an exclamation point. And you're trying to really emphasize like this is the most important concept in what I'm trying to get convince you. And you can move like pieces around the board, like to show actions if you wanted to. You can do a lot of things. You just can't tell them any of the clues, and they have to try and figure out what that concept is. It was nominated for the Spiel des Jahres for a reason. It is a.
Nominated.
It was nominated. Now I know it's going against a winner, but it was nominated very well for a reason, and it
Oh no,
lost to Splendor that year. Or no, it didn't lose to Splendor that year. That was Splendor, Concept, and one other game, and the other game was the one that won it. Now it's gonna bother me.
well, while you're doing that,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
have to say
that was against Camel Up, I believe.
the reason that I'm going to argue against concept here is because of who it's going up to. Just One pretty much kills concept for me. I
Okay.
really like Just One more. So my cons for concept, they're not major. One, it's not a very pretty thing to look at, but neither is Just One.
I beg to differ. I actually really like the icons and all those things that they use it, but it is very busy.
The pieces are nice. I don't like the board. The board is okay, but it can lead to a little clustering, especially when you're talking about colors and stuff like that. You and me are both colorblind, so if you're pointing at orange, I might not be seeing orange. I could be seeing a different shade of red.
Yeah. Yep.
1 second. Okay. And then another thing about it is, for a party game, it can lead itself to being very quiet, along the same lines of codenames. People consider codenames a party game, but a lot of people are sitting there going, so how is that a party? You're just sitting there being quiet.
Yeah.
Just One for me. You talked about it. Concept was nominated for Spiel des Jahres. Just One won the Spiel des Jahres. And that's because, one, it's a great party game, as we're talking about concept. And it can hold a decent amount of people. I think the base game says you can play 7, but honestly, you could play more. It just might get a little bit more iffy. But here's the big thing about it. It's a party game that you can still play right now, even in this social distancing world. I could play this with someone from UK if I wanted to, just because it works well. All you need is a piece of paper if you don't have the base game. So it says, hey, pick a number 1 through 5. Everybody else sees what the number is, and we go from there. And it's so simple. You can only give, it's a one-word answer, so you can only give one-word clues. If anything matches, they get eliminated.
Yeah.
And so it leads to a lot of laughs. It's really great over video conferencing. It's really great for social distancing. It's a game that you can still play even when when you can't be around other people.
Sure.
So that's why I personally think Just One should be one.
I have 2 cons for Just One. The first one is because of the co-op nature and everybody's working together, the player who doesn't get something that has all of the clues that should be seemingly obvious to whoever saw the word, that always gives them, or not always, I mean, it doesn't bother me personally, but I've seen it bother other people, the kind of, oh, I feel dumb for not getting that. Like, it's so obvious now that I know it, and I've let down the team because of it, because now...
I get that. No, don't get me wrong, I get that. For me, for when we play it with our group of friends and stuff like that, it's more like, wow, I'm a dummy.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's more of
it's in jest.
rather than... Yeah.
But the other argument that I have for it is there could be situations where you don't get any clues.
Yeah, there can be, and I'm not going to deny that fact.
and that's a penalty to the player guessing that they had no partake in. Which, I
No,
mean, it's a minor thing, and I don't think it bothers the game that much. And I think it's more funny when it happens. But I can, like, if that happened every round, if you and I were playing it with like two other people, and that happened every round, like that's not a game at that point.
no, I get it. I understand that, but
Yeah.
I just think Just One is the better game. There's a reason why Concept didn't win and Just One did.
Yeah. My other counter argument, what that I do agree with you that there's a lot of silence on it. It's the as brilliant as concept is, the it's just not as fun as just one. Like I don't know how to
And
say it.
and the thing about Concept too, unless you're playing it as a co-op, which you can,
Hmm.
it's originally was supposed to be teams.
Yeah.
And nobody plays it how it's supposed to originally. I mean, there might be people that do it, but everyone I've seen is just doing where we're all working together to get a concept,
Yeah.
to get a certain amount of points.
Yep.
And if you're going to do that, I'll just play Just One.
Yeah. Exactly. I might as well. Honestly, so out of the five categories, the only one I would give to concept is art and production because I do think it's a better production.
I'll give you that
Yeah.
because Just One is just cards with words on it
Yep.
and dry erase boards.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And it's just because there's no art. That's all it is. The cover's
Yep.
kind of nice, but it's not that great. I actually don't even like the cover as much as the cover on concept. So that's the only one I would give it though. It's easier to play. It's easier to play just one. You have more
Yeah.
meaningful choices as knowing, gauging like what kind of answer you give to them. I think it's the
Yeah.
one that should move on.
And again, it won a spiel for a reason. I'm not saying
Yep.
you collect them.
Yeah.
Would you put it up there with the rest of the Spiel des Jahres winners?
Yeah. Yeah, it holds its own.
Yeah.
Concept,
exactly.
that year, I don't think I don't think Camel Up should have won compared to those two,
Yeah.
the other two. But I also was assuming that if this is
Splendor
the
was
year,
gonna win it.
yeah, I thought Splendor was going to win it. I still wouldn't have ranked that compared to those. But
Yeah.
you know, c'est la vie. I'm not the one who picks it. So
All right, so we're going to get to the final bracket, which is the weirdest bracket we
do
have.
we even need to argue this one? I think we both know what's going to go. No, we'll give it a fair try.
We'll give it a fair shot, and so this one's mine, right? Yeah, 'cause you
Yes.
just got
Good
Concept.
luck. We'll
I
find
got
out.
Cash and Guns.
All right, so this is Cash and Guns going up against Ghost Stories. Oh, fun.
The you know what's funny about this is I like both of these games. I know not a lot of people like Ghost Stories because of how difficult it is.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed it. I played it with an alpha gamer and had fun. So
Yeah. So you're the right person to argue it. We should trade.
yeah, Fox Hughes says he actually likes Cash and Guns. It is completely silly.
Cash and Guns is, yeah.
In all honesty, I agree with him.
Yep.
It's one of my pros on it. It leads to a lot of laughs because of how silly it is. It plays pretty quickly. It holds a lot of players. When it comes to game immersion, it allows a lot of fun table talk. You get to play your role. You have your special abilities depending on who you are. You can be like, all right, I may shoot you, but I only have so many bullets, so what am I doing? Am I bluffing you? What's going on? Do I stay in this, or do I'm like, nope, I don't want any part of this? It's a fun, silly game. I've had many laughs playing this game. It's a blast to play. My only really big gripe about it is that sometimes someone can feel like they're getting picked on if a lot of people are pointing at them and stuff like that. That's my major con for it. But again, it's such a silly game. And I probably had the most fun out of this game out of everything else we've talked about today. And yeah, that's my argument for Cash and Guns. It's a phenomenal, fun game. It got a second printing for a reason.
Yeah. It is a brilliant game. Yeah, I mean, the con that I have for it, there's a couple cons. The questionable art in the original version, but we're talking about second edition with John Kovalic art, and it's way more friendly for that. The expansions add a lot too much to it in some
I
examples.
agree with you. The expansions can be a little much, especially like with the new guns and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of people who are just not comfortable with the idea of pointing foam guns at each other, and that's
I even had that on my cons list
yeah,
too. It's just not a major con for me personally. But
yeah,
yeah, people have problems with guns being pointed.
yeah, exactly. Like we could play it at our shop, game shop, and it always goes over well with gangbusters. But I have had people uncomfortable because of it. So
Yeah.
that's the counter arguments for it. Let's talk about ghost stories now. In full disclosure, I am not the biggest fan of ghost stories, and it's not because I used to own it.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
fact, I found it at Goodwill sealed. I paid $20 for it. It was worth it. I'm glad I owned it. It was one of those games where I get the appeal for it. It's one of those cooperative games that does not hand you a victory. Okay?
Yeah, no, it's tough.
It's a
and
tough
that could be a
game.
con for
The
it. It is mean.
and the thing is, like, Rado described it the best, and why he thinks it's so tough. Not because the game itself is difficult. It's not technically that difficult. What makes it so tough is you have like 50 some cards of different ghosts that you have to battle, and you have to make it through the entire deck, and not a single one of them is good. There's no good card. Even if they had like 5 action cards in there that were just good, it was like, oh, I finally have a round where I don't have to do anything. No, everything hits you. Every
Yeah.
single card. And then you're beholden to the dice rolls. However,
Yes.
that's a big factor. But enough of that can be mitigated, and it gives you that sense of real true accomplishment when you do actually beat it. Now, I have not beaten it. I
I,
You have. You're lucky.
yeah.
I never have. I've played it many
Remember,
times, never beat it. But
I've played it a few times. Remember that time I told you I played it with an alpha gamer?
yes,
That's the one time I actually beat it. And he wasn't even trying to be an alpha gamer, and that's one
right,
of the pros for it, is that it leads to a lot of table talk. A lot of people are like,
right.
okay, we need to take care of this, we need to do that. But
My
again, I talked about it. It's super hard.
this is why I don't like how difficult it is because there are occurrences plenty of times where no matter how good you roll, there could be circumstances where you just can't win because of how the stuff draw.
Yeah,
It's just
the card
impossible.
deck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if the cards come up on the opposite side of the board, then you have to go, like, because you only have a 3x3 grid to move, and you can only
if you
move
lose some of those
one
areas,
space.
yeah.
Yeah. So if I'm going from one side to the other, that's 2 turns that it's going to take me to do it. If both of you and me are on one side, and then everything pops up between our turns, there's no way we can deal with it. If
Yeah.
that happens enough, and it's difficult. It is a fun game, and there's a lot. I love the art in it. Piero did the art, I think. It's absolutely gorgeous art. The quality of the dice are decent. The cards are nice. The
Especially
tiles,
for an older game too.
the monks that are in there, like all of those pieces are really great. Um, I mean, I would give it art and production. I wouldn't give it ease of play,
Oh no.
not compared to Cash and Guns. Meaningful choices, I would give it, but everything
Yeah.
else, I would give. I mean, replay value for Cash and Guns.
Oh yeah, because there's what, 2 expansions, something like that.
Yeah, there's 2 expansions, but not only just expansions. Like, it does feel differently because in Ghost Stories, you go through the exact same deck every time. You just have a slightly different bad guy.
No,
Um,
I don't disagree with you. The cons that I have set up for
yeah,
Ghost Stories here was, again, it's a very hard game, which can be a deterrent for some people.
yeah,
If it plays too hard, some people don't want to spend their free time on a game that they'll never be able to beat. That's why some people like Dark Souls and some people can't stand it. I'm one
right.
of the people who don't like Dark Souls. Yeah, it's hard and I could get good at it, but I don't want to spend my free time doing it.
Yeah, it's like I have much more meaningful things I can do. But
Yeah.
what really pushes Cash and Guns over immersion.
Yeah, I'll give you the
That
immersion. The only thing that I could give game immersion to Ghost Stories, just not even giving it to it, but just for it to fight in there,
yeah,
is that it does lead to good table talk. It does lead to people saying, hey, we need to take care of that, but we may need to split the party. You may
yeah,
need to go over here while I go over here because something might pop up over here, or I need to go to this location because I need the help that it's going to give. So it does lead to good planning, effort, and table talk. But again, it can also lead to someone becoming an alpha gamer and directing how everybody is supposed to go. And so it's both a pro and a con on that.
You know, I remember when both of these games were new, and I remember like if you won a game of Ghost Stories, you told everybody. But when Cash and Guns was new, and they saw people playing that at a table, everyone told everybody. They're like,
Everybody.
"What's going on over there?"
Actually, I
That looks
remember
amazing.
you
You know.
actually were there when I won those stories
Mm-hmm.
because we literally jumped up and started celebrating that we
Yep.
beat the game, and everybody stopped what they were doing and turned
Yeah.
at us.
It just doesn't have that many stand-up moments because it's so
Yeah,
rare.
yeah, no, I get that. I agree with you. I think Catching Guns should move on.
Yep.
I say Ghost Stories is a fine game. I do. I would play it again, even though it's so mean.
Yep.
And I do want to try Last Bastion. I want to see what they changed, or if they left it completely the same.
Yeah. You're probably gonna go watch a review after we're done tonight, and it's like, huh?
I
Now I'm
might.
curious. Yeah. I don't blame you. So
Well, I
that
have
means.
seen a review of it. I saw Z Garcia's comparison between the two.
Oh yeah.
But it's been a while. But that'll still be interesting. So,
Yeah.
I'm interested. Cash and Guns versus Just One.
Yep. So Cash and Gun moves on. So that means the next rounds are semifinals will be Seven Wonders Duel, Just One, Cash and Guns, Terra and Meeple City. Wow, what a combination!
Just so everybody knows,
Yep.
we're going to have Seven Wonders Duel going up against Terra and Maple City, and Just One versus Cash and Guns.
Yeah. Daniel, why don't you tell us who voted for what and how many votes each of those games got
Alright,
in our final round of the eliminated?
let's look at the eliminated ones here. Seven Wonders, the original game, was second place on our vote list with
Mhm.
18. Then we're going to look at Ghost Stories here, which was, looks like fourth place with 7 votes, followed by Concept and Dr. Panic both having 1 vote each.
Yep. Not enough love for Dr. Panic right there. I get why people don't like it, but
Well,
it's not
what's
enough.
shocking to me is that Concept only got 1 vote. I thought
Right.
it was popular there for a little while. And I guess you could say it's the tabletop effect, but
I guess
that
so.
was shocking.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. Well, so that means those go in. Let's head into our semifinals round.
This one's yours.
All right. I'll be arguing for either Seven Wonders Duel or Terra in Meeple City. Battle of the Antoine Bowser game.
There was 4 in here, so
Although, I believe they both have, yeah, Ludovic Malblanc is the co-designer of Rampage, or Terror in Meeple City, and Bruno Catala is the co-designer of Seven Wonders Duel.
see what you're getting. You get Terror in Maple City.
Although Ludovic Malblanc also made Cash and Guns too, so Terror in Meeple City. Okay, production quality, that has to go to
Hands down.
yeah, hands down. We both agree on that. I won't belabor it anymore. It's just so good. Okay, immersion. I do like Seven Wonders Duel a lot, but I am going to argue immersion goes to Terra and Meeple City, and that is because the fact that you are physically dropping those pieces and watching the people fly around, it is very indicative of the game that is similar to but legally distinct from Rampage. is you want that destruction. You want a pile of pieces lying all over the board. That is incredibly immersive. Knowing that you're going to be flicking your disc around to move, knowing that you're going to be chucking cars into buildings, knowing that you're going to be digging through the rubble pieces to find the corpses of the people you're trying to collect. That's amazing. It is incredibly immersive. It is super fun. I'm still so cautious to show this to my kids because I know those pieces would probably be lost immediately. And
Well, especially since you have the rare copy. You have Rampage.
yes, I have Rampage, yeah, and that's not going anywhere. And I have one of the tabletop day promos, the rocket ship, that
Yeah,
finally gave
so-
an ability to the Grey Meeples. So, I mean, it's super funny. It's really hilarious. It's super immersive. So it definitely gets those 2 categories. Now, as far as ease of play goes, it's not a difficult game. I can see it either way because it takes a very simple idea as far as dexterity goes and then adds the game on top of it, which is more or less superpowers, abilities, and set collection. As far as meaningful choices, You can never say
Oh,
that you have meaningful choices in dexterity, and as far
yeah,
I
really.
haven't yet seen one that I feel works for
There,
that.
there, there is some choices per se, but it's more like, okay, I'm going to drop this here. I'm going to try to flick
Right.
this over here. That's really it.
Yeah.
Whereas in Seven Wonders Duel, you have to go. Do I draw that card?
Yeah.
What's going to flip up?
Yeah.
Or do I take this one over here and just sell it this way? He forced him to do that, so there is a lot more meaningful choices
Right.
in Seven Wonders Duel.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't disagree with that. In replay value, I feel like they're both the same, but as far as the base game goes, because there is a lot of variety in Rampage, but I would probably also hand that off to Seven Wonders Duel, if not for the
I
expansions,
yeah,
um,
it's
and the fact that you can win in 3 different ways.
yeah, that's what I like about it too is
Yeah.
the different win conditions. That's why I'm a big proponent for Seven Wonders. Again, it's a quick game if you played it before. It doesn't, especially since it's 2 player.
Yeah.
But it's one of my favorite 2 player games. It really is. I love the structure of the draft. I've mentioned it can be lucky at times. Just depends on how you get fed to it. But when we go down to it, I just think it's the better overall game than Terra Neva Cities. Don't get me wrong. I have more fun playing Terra Neva Cities because it leads to a lot of laughter.
Yeah.
But if I want to like get into that nitty gritty, I play games to get into that nitty gritty and have fun. It's
Yeah.
fine if it's dexterity, but Terra Maple City is not something I'm going to go out of my way dexterity wise. I will play tumbling dice. I'll play Rhino Hero. I'll play
Pitch car.
Brokenal before I play Terra Maple City, just because they're a lot simpler.
Yeah. And then Fox You said, I have yet to see either military or the science one. Yeah, you're right, the science one. We've come close, but neither has happened. I have had both of them win.
I've had both of them win
Yeah.
as well.
It's
I've seen all 3 win conditions. The one with the most points, I've won by military, and actually, I think it was you that beat me by science.
Yep. That sounds like something I would do. No, but no. So if we broke it down to the categories, I feel ease of play goes to Seven Wonders Duel actually. If not because of all the powers and like it doesn't add much to it, but flicking the discs like across rubble and pieces and stuff is kind of difficult. So actually, ease of play I would give to
Yeah, I agree with you.
Seven Wonders Duel. Meaningful
Replay
choice
value.
and replay value I'd give to Seven Wonders Duel as well.
Yeah.
So we are
I
in
agree on all
agreement.
3 of those.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Seven Wonders Duel moves on. Now it is a better dexterity game than Seven Wonders Duel. Like Terra Maple City is definitely better than. I mean, I flicked the pieces in Seven Wonders Duel. It's just not as fun.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about the next round, and that is
over there.
Just One versus Cash and Guns. This is your
I know
argument.
which one I know which one I want to win. I just don't think it's going to win.
I don't know. We'll find out. I'm cool. I like both of these a lot.
So do I. One's kind of cool for me more than the other. Not for any reason. I just played one way too much.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Wait, now I'm thinking I'm playing duel wrong.
You
Alright,
might not.
let's see.
Those are hard categories to do. You have to sneak it under when like the other players are focused on the other two.
My game is Cash and Guns.
Do it.
What haven't we already mentioned that we haven't said about Cash and Guns? It is probably one of the most fun. Yeah, I don't flick pieces.
You mean you don't play Seven Wonders Duel, the dexterity game? Come on.
So
It's cooperative too, by the way. Go on,
when I
sorry.
go through this list here, I say Cash of Guns is probably one of the easiest games to play. It's literally who's staying in, who's getting out, who's pointing what at who.
Yeah.
Are you going to shoot him or not? It's real simple choices. So I think ease of play, and it's not saying just one is hard.
No.
I think just one could lead to more analysis paralysis because you got to think of being obscure, but you don't want to be too obscure.
Yes.
This way you can get out there. So like one time I played it, we had Cleopatra as the clue. and someone went with Egyptian, another one went with pharaoh or princess. I can't remember exactly what it was. And I'm just sitting there like, okay, well, how would they get this without going for those most simple answers, because those are probably going to get picked.
Yeah.
And so this was right after when everybody was upset with the casting for the movie. I went with her name. I went with Godot, and it was able to get it for that simple reason. It's just it can lead. I had to sit there and think, how am I going to do this without saying like the Nile or the Pharaoh or princess or whatever.
Yeah.
I had to find some way to get it, and that can lead to the analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
Again, when we're talking about replay value, it can be different. It is different at times when it comes to just one, but it can also get samey because you only have a certain amount of cards. There's a lot of cards in there and with a lot of numbers, but sometimes I've played it enough times where sometimes the same ones have come up multiple times. And so you fall back on what you've used before, and it becomes very samey.
Yeah.
Whereas Cash and Guns, it plays the same, but it plays different because, okay, I need to do this, or I have this ability now, so I got to pay attention to what I'm doing. Or my ability now is I get to choose which one I want, a bullet or what is it, a miss, or whatever the pass, whatever that card is. At this time, I could do it after everybody else has made their decision, so I'm trying to read the table. There's a lot more for Cash and Guns in that fact. The only one I would say that it would lose to just one is Meaningful Choice. Because I've seen people play Cash and Guns where they're just chaos. They're like, okay, I'm just going to play the top card off of my deck.
Yeah.
See what happens.
And I mean, yeah, that's definitely an arbitrary choice, and where everything is. I definitely give Meaningful Choice to just one. But the simplicity of it, I think, is what sets it apart, is that it is incredibly smart how simple it is. Because really, you're just picking a single word, that's it. You just give them a one-word clue, that's fine, just like Codenames, it's fine, just one word, that's it. But really, the fact that they cancel each other out, if it's too obvious, too on the nose, I think that's brilliant. But then it goes into like Princess Bride. It's like, well, I know, you don't really know much about this, so you're probably going to go simple, so I might have to... Finding that weird calibration with your group that works so brilliantly, I think is phenomenal with it.
And the thing is, you can't really talk about it too much. You can't give each other like hints and stuff like that.
Right. Yep.
So it's like, okay, do I go with the easy one because I know this, or can I go obscure because I know the person who's guessing? Like for me, the wife, I had, the Mummy when we played Just One at one point in time. And you know how I am into the classic Universal Monster movies.
Yep.
So she went so obscure, she named the actor for me. Instead of like Brendan Fraser or, Fraser or stuff like that, she went Karloff.
Nice.
And it's like...
Boris Karloff, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
yeah, no, that says it right there. No, and that's a perfect example of it. Like, that's, I feel like, really involved with it. I mean, art and production I would give to Cash and Guns.
Cash and Guns, yeah.
Hands down. As far as immersion, I would give to Cash and Guns as well.
Yeah, I agree with you on those two.
Ease of play and meaningful choices, I give to just one.
I have to say, I agree with you to a certain extent. I just think...
Ease of play because, one, it's simpler to get to the table. It doesn't look offensive, so it's initially likelier to get to the table.
And, going back to my con for it, or my pro for it earlier, it's great social distance too. You can still play it while, as we're doing right now, talking to each other over the internet. You can still play it. So yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So I would give ease of play to that. I mean, sure, I think it would be a little more AP prone than like say 7-1 or Cash and Guns would. I think Cash and Guns is just way more simple. Like you're forced to play fast, but the other two outrank it. So it brings us down to replay value. Now I think there's a whole nother expansion for just one.
It's just not in English yet, yeah.
It's just not in English yet, but it's like a whole nother base set on top of it. It's a double game. So, Cash and Guns. Oh wait, no, we're talking Cash and Guns, right?
We're talking Cash and Guns versus just one replay value.
It has like 12 expansions. It's ridiculous. However, minimum number of plays for full experience, I think is just one.
Yeah, I
Cash and
can see
Guns
that because
set
I
collection.
think there's like 60 cards in the box.
Mm-hmm.
Each have like 5 numbers on it with
Mm-hmm.
5 words
Yep.
basically. And then you play 13 cards at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of variety going in there, and then, but player range and scale. This is what it boils down to: 4 to 8 players, 2 to 7 players. Both of them are incredibly quick games.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean it goes to just one? Because that's 3 to
That's a
7
nice
players.
wide variety that stays the same.
No, it's the same variety. 3 to 7, 4 to 8. It's the same variety.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but I'm talking about time wise, not just the scaling.
Yeah, just one is shorter,
It is.
and it doesn't go any. It doesn't go any longer based on the number of players. Where
Yeah.
Cash and Gun slightly does because of the player abilities.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you on that one. And then not to just mention the fact that you can actually play just one with more people. You just may not want to, but it's still going to be the same.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I
you know,
give you that. You made a good point on just one.
I would be willing to call it a wash because of how close it is and go to the tiebreaker, personally. But
Alright,
I will let you decide on that.
Yeah, I agree with you. We'll go to the tiebreaker because it's really close on that one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see. Where were we? We were here. So, just one beats Cash and Guns by 7 votes.
Just one moves on.
Went against 7 Wonder Duel.
Yeah.
Interesting because these probably are my 2 favorite Repos games.
Yeah. They're not my 2 favorite, but they're both really. I love both of them. All right, so let's talk about how many votes did the 2 that got eliminated for.
Also, I just mentioned Cash and Guns. It got 11.
Okay.
Sorry, it got 4.
Oh, the other one got 11. Yeah.
Yeah, the other one got 11. In Terra Maple City, correct?
Yep.
Terra Maple City was the next to last place besides a little tie between Concept and Dr. Panic at 3.
I think it's just because so few people played it. You know, like a lot of the people who are getting into board games in the last like 3 or 4 years, I don't feel have had access to it.
I also think a lot of people don't know it by its new name. A lot
True.
of people who were into it in the beginning, they probably still know it after Rampage.
Yep. Yep. No, I think
but
you're
when
right.
they see Terra Maple City, they're like, "What is that?" I don't know that one. So.
All right. So our next round and our finals: 7 Wonders Duel versus Just One. Do you want to take a very quick break before we do that?
I'm good. I can keep going.
All right. Let's keep going. I should be good. We'll find out. All right.
This is going to be pretty simple. So, which one jumps out you the most?
I mean, I kind of knew 7 Wonders Duel would go there, but you know me and my spiel winners.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yep, you know me and my spiel winners, and Fox you, just so you know what that means. I don't know if you know what the Spiel des Jahres, the awards are. It's the German Family Game of the Year. It's pretty much the most prestigious, like the Oscars of board games. And as far as I'm concerned, I own every single one. It's been going since the 70s. Yeah. Oh, okay. So you know what I'm talking about. I am a huge Spiel. I will back up most Spiel games, even if they're not as good. But I will admit if they're not nearly as good. But oh yeah, okay. So if dude, you're in the right place. Yeah, for real. 40. Yeah. So you know the Spiel. Then let me ask you, top 3 favorite Spiels. Let's hear it. Oh, and then I would normally agree, but Duel over any party game. I don't know. We both really like Just One. We'll see. We'll give it its fair justice. And by all means, if you have any arguments for it, tell us because we're gonna break it down right now. You ready for this, Daniel?
Again, yeah. Just remember for all of us who have been with us from the beginning, as well as Fox, we want to let you know we don't pick a side on this one. We just break down by our 5 criteria.
Mm-hmm. So, is there any of the 5 criteria that immediately stick out to you? That was the question you asked me earlier.
Yeah. Ease of play.
Ease of play. Just one.
Just one.
Hands down. Because it's less AP prone, it is likelier to get to there, and it's very simple. People know the idea of word clue games. Couldn't agree more. replay value, I feel that goes to Seven Wonders Duel.
I think so too. One, it has the expandability. The only thing is the length of time. I could
Well,
probably play a 7-player game.
now let's think about this: 3 to 7 players versus only 2.
Two.
It doesn't scale, but minimum number of plays for full experience. I think that tips it over,
Yeah.
and additional content, of course.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
agree with you that Seven Wonders gets Duel gets that one.
Excuse me. Okay. So,
So
so
here comes the. I know we're gonna do this where it's gonna push something over the other.
oh, art and production, Seven Wonders.
Seven Wonders.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, that's what I was gonna say. Is one I know where we're gonna have our sticking point per se.
Okay.
But let's go with game immersion first.
Okay.
Because I think for me personally, I think just one wins game immersion.
Okay, so let's talk about our. We haven't broken down immersion yet and why we think that. The theme matching the mechanisms. Now, while there is no theme for just one, I mean technically just one is the theme, and
Yeah.
it does that in a number of different ways. For example, it gives you one-word clues.
Word clues.
There can only be one of each one, and only one person is guessing. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not saying that's technically thematic, but
It does match its mechanism. It's saying
yeah.
what it is. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I love Seven Wonders Duel. It's a great game, but the theme is barely there.
Yeah, it really is. The drafting doesn't make sense for it. Now, you are technically city building in it, which is the idea. You are technically making the Seven
You're
Wonders.
not city building. You're wonder building.
You're wonder building, yeah. Yeah, we got Wonder Bread up here. It's wonder building. Okay. I get you. Now, do we think that the theme matching the mechanisms matches that well enough? Because it is technically more, it has more theme to it, but do those
Does it
mechanisms?
match? I would say yes, honestly. I think it beats just one slightly because, like we were joking around, it does do wonders better.
Okay. Yeah, we'll be talking about that here in a minute.
Yeah,
Fox, you told us his top spiel de jar. Yeah, well, okay. Yeah, we're gonna have a good conversation here after the show's done. Uh,
So I give there's a theme match mechanism slightly to Seven Wonders Duel.
Yeah.
It does match it just a little bit better because you are building wonders, so you need these resources to build those wonders and
Right.
capital on those. So understandable.
wait, we've
What I
already
think-
have we dished out the other two, or the other 2 points each, or this is our fourth
The only
point.
one game immersion and meaningful choice is the only one.
We haven't talked about meaningful choices yet. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Player interaction is definitely, I mean, mechanistically wise, like when we talk meaningful choices, that's the card drafting. That would probably go to Seven Wonders. But as far as table talk goes,
I
like,
give that to just one.
it's
hands
got to
down.
be. It's got to
Yeah.
be, yeah. Because it's like, how could you not remember that? You said the movie that I know exactly of. Like, how could you not?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it also, to me, just not Seven Wonders, just one leads to more memorable moments for that reason. It allows more because of that table talk. I remember more just one games than I remember my Seven Wonder victory. The only memorable victory for me in Seven Wonders Duel was the military victory.
Yeah, and that's memorable, but I feel there's a lot more memorable moments, like when you finally flip it over, it's like when you finally get that aha moment, which happens in almost every time you play just one. There's that one point where you're like, chocolate, bears, Valentine's Day? Yeah, yeah. How'd you figure? Like what? Like how would you know
Maybe
that?
Valentine, not Valentine's Day, but
Yeah, but you get the idea, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
there's always one of those like aha moments. Wow. Okay. So I would give
well, yeah,
immersion
like
to
for
just
me,
one.
when I was talking about the Karloff thing, the mummy, it's like, oh, she used Karloff. It's got to be a mummy.
Yes. Yeah. So now let's talk about meaningful choices then, because this is where it breaks down. Impacting others' strategy, I feel, is Seven Wonders, because you are directly playing back and forth. What I do directly affects you.
No, I agree with you, hands down.
Non-arbitrary
Also-
choices, though, flip that page, you can't make a bad,
Arbitrary.
an arbitrary choice in. You could do that, like, you could just dump a card, get some coins,
Yeah,
in
and the big thing with
Duel.
Seven Wonders Duel too is it can force you to make an arbitrary choice. If your only choice is to draft that card, you don't know what's under it. So when
Yep.
you take it and it flips and it's the card your opponent needs, and you're not making the choice for yourself there. It's just what you have to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I agree with you that. So now it's impacting your long-term strategy.
hmm I
Just
don't want
one
to say it, but
just one doesn't have any of that. There is no long-term
yeah.
strategy.
No, I agree. I have to give that to Seven Wonders Duel too.
It's
If
true to its
anything,
name. It's just one turn of strategy.
so I like just one more than Seven Wonders Duel. I'm not gonna lie.
hmm
I enjoy it for what it is, but it's because I have a lot of memories with it.
Yeah.
It's a game that I can still keep in touch with friends that I can play over the internet, and it leads itself for that so well. This is the perfect game while we're locked down or social distancing because you have to be safe.
hmm
And so I want to give the love to it for that reason. But when we break down this criteria, Seven Wonders Duel is just the better game.
Yep. Yep. And taking our bias out of it, because I do agree with you. I prefer just one out of it, but I do agree. Seven Wonders Duel is a better game, and it is our top repost game for this top 8 debate. Let us know what you think about it in the comments. And Fox you, thank you for joining in. Hang out with us till after the show. You get the advantage. Since you are hanging out with us, you get to help us discuss what we're filming next time. With that being said, if you ever want to give us suggestions on future episodes, you can. Email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com.
As well as all the video re-uploads that we stream on Twitch can be found on YouTube at Everyday Board Games Podcast. If you do find us on there, give us a like and a follow.
And if you ever want to join in on the conversation live, which I highly encourage you do, because it's all kinds of shenanigans that happen, join us at twitch.tv/everydayboardgames.
You can also find the audio versions of these podcasts on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games Podcast. This includes Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, and Podbean, and we are currently working on iTunes.
So, with that being said, we want to thank you so much for tuning in. I've been Daniel.
And I've been Daniel.
And this has been Everyday Board Games.